Hello, fellow Bassages and Fargan Iceholes. My name is Alex Tyler. I'm here with three of my friends today instead of two because I'm a lousy bastard. I'm lazy, so I don't get people to. I will get people to do my work for me. Say hi, guys.
What's going on, boss?
Hi, guys. Howdy. What an intro.
Nice intro, bros.
Way to,
I feel
way to
special
really
now.
sing home that you are a hard-working member of society and that you contribute to everybody.
Hey,
You're a kind man too.
the best I've ever contributed is giving people type 2 diabetes at McDonald's where I work. So, yay me.
Nice, man. Very nice.
I'm not going to touch on that topic. That's not today's topic.
Of course not.
But anyway, today's topic is basically about games that are out right now, games that are going to be coming out, and things that are coming out and we don't know how to judge them. And also Monster Hunter, for example, too. When we look at Monster Hunter, what do we see? A perfect game in every standpoint, except for a few nitpicks, right?
Fat Man Dive.
It has its issues here and there, but really it's more so user error sometimes rather than game error.
Yeah. So, does this mean that it's going to be like everybody's game of the year until like God of War, Last of Us comes out? You think?
I think Last of Us is going to flop, honestly.
Me
I don't
too.
think that's going to do well.
I think so too because, like I was talking about that before. Like, oh, let's say that for later. We're going to talk about that later. But back on topic, Monster Hunter. What do we think? Will this become good? Is it good for now, and how long will it last?
It's great for now. They just need to add a bit more content.
Yeah, and
Yeah, the content is very. It's in that danger that Warframe had when Warframe was first new. After a point, it's repetition. It's a good repetition, but it's still
Okay.
repetition.
Okay, so Monster Hunter. Sorry, go ahead.
The real reason that this game had so little content when it first came out, though, is because this was a really big step. Because previously, the first game was on the PS2, which did well, and then for a while they had to go to Nintendo consoles because no other group would support them and put their games on there. And eventually, they got tired of basically having all their games be on handheld or low power consoles, and we're like,
I hated that
ready
too.
for a change.
Ugh.
And so this was just a giant step, and pretty much a huge gamble for them. So if
Yeah.
this flopped, that was the franchise.
Yeah, true, very true. Because when I look at games like, let's say, Destiny 2, Warframe, and other things like that, what do we see exactly? Do we see a good game that is worth our time, or something that is going to be, oh, I'm gonna be playing this for the next 6 months and enjoying every little bit of it. I'm gonna be this is my baby for the next 6 months. I'm gonna be nurturing it. I'm gonna be caring for it. That's basically what this game is right now, right?
I wouldn't give it 6 months as it stands. It would need more content.
Okay, speak on that.
It's got a really good, like, power through it content right now. You can just sit and take like a week or two and just really burn through a lot of pretty enjoyable content with some buddies. But it doesn't have that grandeur end game kind of optimization pretty its stuff has a much more finite end with the way it is right now. They haven't found their balance on infinite running of something where it's always going to be still some challenge present, but always some progress to be made. They haven't found that yet.
The reason for that is still that they had to take a big gamble on this game in the first place.
Yeah.
Because the series does well as a whole, and it's very well liked in Japan.
Yes. And I think that's one big problem with the series as well. Not to sound racist, but it's very Japanese. Like, you have to understand Japanese culture somewhat and understand how to play this game somewhat too, don't you? Like, when you think of... don't you think a little bit? Like, it's not
understanding the culture explains why you have a cat instead of like a dog or something.
Yeah.
That's about as far as that goes.
But isn't
Okay.
it created by Square Enix?
Capcom.
Oh, it is. Oh.
Yeah.
Ooh, you're talking about the wrong company then.
You're-
Continue on.
Yes. But like, when I think of this game, when I think of Monster Hunter, I think of something where other games have failed, this game succeeds. That is one thing that always comes to mind when I think of Monster Hunter. This is always going to be a series that makes something great out of something that when people try. Like, people will always love Shadow of the Colossus, but don't you guys ever want something better than like puzzle-based platforming monster thingy and actually fight the monster?
I never really got to play Shadow of the Colossus that much, but what I did see that it seemed to more around a focus around puzzles rather than it was about like slaying giant monsters like this game is.
Yeah, because the thing about
context of fighting a monster versus having some sort of puzzle or process to deal with it kind of depends on the monster. I mean, you can have the glory of fighting all these monsters, but when every monster is handled via combat, eventually you get to a point where it's like, this is just the same thing every single time we fight a monster. You know, after a lot of them, a certain level of similarity kind of just because you'll find some way to play that's really the same no matter what you're playing against, things like that. And it's up to the player to make that diversity, but when you do puzzles or other methods of fighting, combating them, there's guaranteed to be some form of diversity, and every monster has its own feel to it. So as nice as it is to fight the monsters, I do kind of wish there were a few more that were mechanic-oriented, and that's the big thing is mechanics.
Yeah.
Because they're in their base game, they have the base game. This is a template now to put in downloadable content, DLC expansions, to grow off of that template, and that's where they're sitting. And it's a point of where players are playing it because they see the potential it has, but it has to be acted on now.
Well, and again, they also are going to be releasing more content because they do have over like a year's worth of different monsters, and they're constantly making more for the game.
Yes. But also at the same, but
a year's worth. What type of year's worth is what I'm saying.
That's the biggest problem I see with Monster Hunter 2. Like, early game, probably early game progress is probably the worst part of the game. I'd say that because grinding to get like the mid game level is hard. It seems easy at first, but then when you realize you have to go through, let's say, in-game, beginning game content, like beginning game where it ends is Agarus, Anjanath, whatever it is. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like when you fight the giant T-Rex, that's when beginner's mode stops, I think, because you're actually fighting your first real monster after that. You're no longer fighting giant dodo birds, giant iguanas, giant.
I call them Dodosaurus Rex.
Yeah.
So.
Giant mud skippers and a giant salamander. So, does this, like, the skill level in that game, I think it needs to be explained better, than just saying, go kill monster and it gets harder with each monster. I think they need something a little bit more down to earth than saying, go kill monster now, more monster later, it's harder now, monster later, kill monster now. Get me?
Okay, so the whole, like, each monster being harder isn't necessarily true. Each monster is different.
Yeah.
And I think them getting smarter is a better term, because it doesn't matter how strong. Later on, when you start to progress, like past a certain point, the big thing with monsters is, yeah, they have more health, they do more damage, but they're the same with monsters. What gets tricky is when they tweak the AIs for them, because you get used to fighting them a certain way, and then it changes, so now you need to change. Some monsters are pretty easy for some people, and problematic for others. One of the Elder Dragons, Fang here, doesn't like it. Can't handle it for the life of him. I farmed the thing with no problem. I had no issues with the thing at all. I could farm it on multiplayer settings, but I can't do other ones though.
that comes back to the pattern thing, because I was used to a different pattern back in a couple different games of this.
Yeah.
Whereas
But
I
he's
had
better
something
at
so...
like the final boss than I am, for example.
Yes, that
I
is
will say
true.
that boss feels a little lackluster in my opinion.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because when I first saw the final boss, I thought, this is an insect dragon crystalline monster thing, ain't it? This is like Mothra.
Glowworm!
Yeah, it's basically a giant dragon glowworm, right?
Glowworm. I say worm.
Yeah.
Like W-Y-R-M, because that's technically still a word for dragon.
Oh, you're so cute.
Glowworm!
You still haven't told us answered? Ooh.
And then Fang calls it something else entirely.
I call it Oprah
One
because
of ours, Roger thought of the same, but we call him Shoopy because he fires a ton of lasers.
Wow, that's cool.
I call it Oprah because it's shiny and pretty, but at the same time it bitch slaps you in the end.
Smells fishy to me.
It's a not so scientific railgun dragon.
But back on topic. What is the longevity? What is the state of the game? And how long will it last? And are we looking at the next Destiny killer, like the next MMO killer thing that would be like everybody's game of the year or top 5 game of the year thing? You know what I mean? Is this what this game is?
I personally think so, because one, Destiny 2 did not exceed expectations on launch. People got overhyped for it, in my opinion, and then when it launched, everyone was just so disappointed.
That was more a matter of what we got was different from what we were told we were getting. Not even just hype. Even someone who was just, oh yeah, it's okay, I'll try it. And then it was totally different from what we expected. It had nothing to do with hype, just what we were told was different from what we got.
Yeah.
As for Monster Hunter, I really don't think it's going to be an MMO killer, because it doesn't have... It's not an MMO. Keep that in mind. It is a single-player franchise game. It is, at its core, playable through a single player.
Yes.
And so, as much as it feels like an MMO at times, because it has the squads and that's not as prominent as you think. You don't need that for anything in this game. It's completely a solo-over game. And in terms of actual reason to do multiplayer beyond, let's play with friends. That's all it is to play with friends. It doesn't have a reason. Like, there's nothing that requires your teammates there, other than you're stuck on a monster move, which doesn't happen all too often.
Yeah.
It needs more mechanics in it to be considered an MMO.
Okay.
It has a AAA game structure with its gameplay, but it needs more mechanics before it can be considered an MMO style game that people can stay hooked on.
Okay.
For like an extreme period of time.
I can understand that.
Okay, then what is the longevity of this game? And will all the Destiny channels that are playing this game right now eventually go back to Destiny 2 and say, yes, I missed my baby?
I think the Destiny channels need to get their rears and gears and get a Warframe, but that's my personal opinion.
I'm about to say.
This game's longevity, I'd probably put it... It's bigger than most games. Most games that follow this template or this structure probably last about like a week. Maybe two.
And his big scary
Look at Persona. Persona's a game built on length and all these mechanics and structures and all this story and all this world development. And look at how long that lasts someone. A week or two? It gets kind of tiresome when it's all in there from the get-go and it's all there.
Yeah.
But Monster Hunter has a different pacing to it.
Yeah, because...
I'd probably give it a month.
Yeah.
Someone could stay on it for a month, as it is right now, before they would need something else to happen.
Okay. Fang, what do you think?
I'd say right now, a month or two, just because the people are still kind of getting the feel for the game, plus they're still going to actually be experimenting with, different concepts and newer concepts to try and, they've had this base template for a while, but now that they actually have a platform that can handle all of their different ideas, they're going to try and push their boundaries more. I've heard from some people that they're trying to get monsters that require more people, and that there's actually somewhat of a raid aspect that they might be coming out with.
Cough, cough, death pickle.
He's not going to be a raid. He's just going to be a pain in the ass.
Whoever is spamming me with Fortnite invites needs to go away.
Mm. Okay, and personally, I think I don't know how long it will last. I really don't, because right now I think that it's basically not the Titanic, but you're skating not on thin ice, but the ice is getting thinner every time you play it more and more. You're realizing something that yes, this is a good game. Yes, this is a great game that I can play with my friends. Yes, I can have fun with this game. But in the end, I still have other games to play, and there's more things coming out. And I realize that if I and I let's take Savage for example. Savage, you there still?
Well,
okay.
Well.
You have six.
What happened?
Let's say you have $60, right? And
Mm-hmm.
you have a choice of getting Last of Us 2, God of War, the new one, and Monster Hunter.
All right.
What do you get?
What do I get in those three things?
Yeah.
Monster Hunter.
Okay.
Because I haven't played Last of Us. I haven't even played Last of Us. God of War. I haven't played any of the games. I haven't beat any of the games. It seems fun, but I'm not gonna get enjoyment out of that. I'd rather get Monster Hunter to play with friends and do some tricks, find new glitches.
Yep.
In terms of actual longevity, if you peg Monster Hunter as a $60 game, games like God of War are $40 games.
Yeah.
Basically,
there's so much the content lasts so much longer for money. A big thing with when people critically look at is there enough content in this game? It's do you get your money's worth out of the playtime? Because how long you play, the longer you play and enjoy it, effectively, the better your money was spent.
Okay.
Yeah, you could say, oh, it could be a few minutes of extremely stupendous content, and that's one thing. But in general, most games are not going to be that exceptional, so you need to look at, okay, how many hours did I get per dollar?
Mm-hmm.
And so any game that can rack in at least 60 hours is considered this game was totally worth it.
Okay.
Any game that can rack in 60 hours playtime for most of its people is doing it right.
And I think that's why so many games nowadays are switching to open world or online multiplayer settings, because it increases the longevity of the game, not because it's an easy cash in or anything like that. Not just because of that either, but also because
people are kind of pulling away from this sort of linear style of game nowadays. People want to explore and want to feel immersed in this wide world they've created.
Rest in peace. No one liked when it tried to move over.
Yeah. So, but here's a good example of linear games that are open world that I think need to die. There's a YouTuber I watch called Metal Canyon. He is on his literal 250th episode, which are usually 50 minutes long, of Fallout 4. He's been playing it since release. 250 episodes of that game, and he's still playing it. And he still has content.
Does he have anything left to do?
Yeah, he still has stuff to do.
Is he really bad at the game?
I don't know. I mean, that's
how
that.
You can't beat the DLCs. That's all. You can't beat it.
I mean, I could understand if he was really bad and it took him a couple of hours per mission because he's extremely slow, but then he wouldn't have viewers.
I don't know either. I mean, each video, because he's kind of a smaller channel, gets about, I'd say, maybe. I say each video gets about 150 views, and his subscribers about 1,000. So, hey, people are watching it.
He's a dying channel then.
I mean, that's the thing. That's what I'm talking about when it comes to things like this. Like, longevity gets to a point where things need to die, right? Because 250 episodes of Fallout 4. That's a linear.
Warframe.
Yeah. Warframe.
That breaks your template. The longevity doesn't necessarily mean it needs to die.
Mm-hmm.
It needs to just be a certain type of longevity. The end can't be the same as the beginning.
Yeah.
What are we gonna say?
Every game that's like an MMO or something like that needs to have this end game plan where if they're gonna pull the plug on it, if people have spent money on it, don't just kill a game, because I'm a big advocate against killing games, which is why one of the reasons I hate EA so much is because they've made games that people have spent like actual money on and then pulled the plug on the servers, and you would no longer have any access to the game whatsoever, and boom, there's your money down the drain, and there's all the enjoyment you had with the game gone.
Yeah, and it also gets to a point where you just want to stop playing too. Like, there's such a thing as too much content, you know?
Not always.
Okay, how so?
Always.
How so?
That would have been fun if I got more content.
Explain. How is more content not a bad thing sometimes?
Well, because if you think about it this way, what's better? More exactly what's required for the average player, or not enough? If you put more in, then you never have to worry about your players running out of content. Yeah, they might eventually say, okay, I'm just gonna stop now, but they'll never be like, I want to keep playing, but there's nothing else to do. If you put in enough content to where no matter who the player is, they'll have something to do, you'll completely satisfy the whole player base. You won't have people saying, hey, there's not enough. Because no matter what you do, you're always going to run into those people who prefer more content, endless content, even if it's repetitive, just because they like kicking around.
Yeah.
Whereas if you put not enough, games receive a worse off review, typically. Because they say, oh, there was lacking content, or it was too short, or there wasn't enough to do. There's nothing wrong with having extra, just make sure it's, like, good content. And not
Make sure it's not filler content.
Make sure you don't hit a point where you have to do this thing that's just audaciously annoying content to get to another content that you might like.
Yeah. And that's why I think it's a big problem with like things like Monster Hunter sometimes, like, or not like Monster Hunter itself, but games that are like Monster Hunter. They use the excuse of farming as an excuse for content, which is not farming. It's just, which farming is not in-game content. It's just basically, you know, playing the game so much.
Farming in Warframe, which is a game about farming, is all aesthetics.
Oh yeah, that's
real Warframe endgame, looking pretty while you're killing shit.
I know, right? Oh,
I mean,
dude, I love being pretty.
But that's a good point to bring up, like in-game content for grinding versus in-game content final levels of the game. What are better? What is better? I mean, I think one game that did this perfectly was Horizon Zero Dawn, where they basically had, what was it, in-game content grinding, but the grinding was part of the final levels, where they actually had levels in the game where you fight things, stuff like that. And Monster has that too right now, but, you know, you get the point.
Your opponents are pulling away. Drag them back.
I'm killing a fuzzball.
I'm just gonna say now that I have never played Horizon Zero 4 nor Monster Hunter.
But you've played games like them, haven't you? Like
them?
Yeah.
Metal Gear Solid. I don't think Metal Gear Solid's like that. But...
Yeah, you do. You grind. You look for materials. You hunt down things and try to kill them or capture people and stuff.
Far Cry is a pretty... Far Cry 3. Any Far Cry after Far Cry 3 we don't talk about. Except maybe Blood Dragon. But Far Cry 3, the Far Cry franchise, has a really good sense of grinding, in the aspect that you don't need to grind for progression or for any form of experience, but you're quite literally going hunting to get leathers to improve pouches, which will increase your ammo, or you'll use these various materials to actually physically create improvements.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Okay, final topic. Final thoughts on Monster Hunter. We give it a good game of the year. Will it win Game of the Year? Probably not. Is it going to be the best thing we ever seen? One of the best? Yes or no?
It's certainly the best in the franchise because every small gripe that a lot of people had with the game beforehand was just lovingly cared for, and they're like, okay, well, they made everything a bit more accessible, and everything just felt a little more cohesive and really just a lot better.
Okay.
Personally, I feel like it's not a game that we should be talking about whether or not it'll make Game of the Year, but whether or not they're gonna take this game which has the potential to play like an MMO, even though it's a single player game, which a lot of people do forget, and whether they're gonna do that. Because you can't really say it'll be the game of the year when it's one type of game that people that has a feel of another. It needs to be kind of given its speciality. It needs to be given its place. What do you want to be? Do you want to be a game that has the story, that has grinding to go along with it, to give you something to do, to give you some play time that feels accomplishing so you feel proud when you get your gear? Or do you want to be a game where the story is there to enjoy with friends and then just be able to play around and have that kind of MMO setting? And once that's figured out, I feel like then we can tell, should it be game of the year or not? Because it hasn't found its kind of middle ground where it wants to be among those two yet.
Because I think in title alone, it already gets some respect. Monster Hunter World. That already makes you tingle in your seat, don't you think? Like, I'm going to a world full of monsters. That's great. That sounds awesome. But
have fun with that, bud.
Yeah. Hey, look, it's Cleveland.
Hey, Alaska. Let's go, boys.
Oh, it's New Jersey. Everything looks like New Jersey.
New Jersey.
To Swaziland.
But if I have to give it, I don't give games score. I never give games a score. I rarely ever do that because it's hard to pinpoint them, and giving games a score is repetitive and stupid. You can never say 10 out of 10, 10 out of 10, 10 out of 10 for every game. There's going to be variances. That's why I made the line theory. Because I know for sure Monster Hunter is definitely above the line. It is grade A content, AAA material. They made this game and you're enjoying it. And I'm happy from it too. But anyway, moving on to the next subject. We have some interesting news. We have a subject that's coming out that could shake the gaming world itself. And
no, it really won't.
It will if it happens, because think about this. What does Google own?
I don't
Music.
care what Google tries to do. They're not gonna take over this industry too. It's not gonna work like they think it's gonna work.
It's really not.
I mean,
there's already well-established forces inside this field already. I mean, it's just like when Apple tried to put their hand in the market with Pippin.
Yeah.
That flopped immensely.
Yeah. My thing about this is that they own YouTube. And for context, what we're talking about is this. Google is making their own console, and they are acquiring assets, they are acquiring companies, and they are acquiring people to help make this. They're staying away from Steam. They're building their own thing and everything. They're building their own.
That's a mistake.
Yeah.
That's a mistake right
I
there.
know.
You don't want to dodge Steam.
Yeah. Like
you don't want to avoid Steam. That's a mistake.
But basically, they acquired a couple people from different companies. One guy from Nintendo, two people from Xbox, and and I think one from Valve.
Valve's alright.
Yeah.
Back from the hunt, I see.
See, they haven't picked up like power players though.
Yeah.
Nintendo makes some nice stuff. Xbox has a few nice things. Valve's done some pretty good stuff, but it's so short term with what they do.
Yeah.
And Google is not a short term company. So
Google usually doesn't think short term. They usually think very long term.
So when you're saying long term, does this mean that the game console will be okay? Will it start out okay?
No.
I think it depends. One, it depends on the release price. Two, it depends on what games they can actually squeeze onto the console, which probably won't be much because
Here's why it's not gonna work out. First of all, no franchise right now is going to trust making a game for Google unless they pay them off big time to do it. Because console gamers are extremely territorial. just think of the whole Xbox PlayStation war. That still goes on for a lot of
Yeah.
people, which is irrelevant because PC's better. Anyway,
Which is irrelevant
But-
because shut your mouth.
but I'm a PC gamer too, so Fang
No.
doesn't
It's
understand.
about the
No,
PC
Anyway,
PS4, bro.
but this is
It-
proof.
it's what-
This conversation is proof, though, that
To be
even
honest,
from a console to personal computer, which shouldn't even be able to compare because you have so much more control
be
over a
hon-
computer's
like I
like.
say,
Nah,
to be
get out of here.
honest,
It's about the
whatever me-
GameCube. It's
to
about
be
the
honest,
GameCube. Get out of here.
It's whatever medium you enjoy the most, whatever you feel the most comfortable on.
The problem is, like, these are for quite literally about a generation at least. These consoles have had their social networks built, and
No,
now
guys.
Google's gonna try to make one. So what's gonna happen? Who's gonna want to go over to a Google console and buy this console to play 1 or 2 games where none of their friends have it probably, because
Yeah.
no one's gonna be on it to start with. You
Yeah.
can move up to the next PlayStation, or you can move over to Xbox, because you know you'll find people.
Yeah.
But with this Google console gamers
This
are
is a
social.
giant shot in the dark.
Yeah.
Well,
this
people
is
that
such
buy
a-
GameCubes, they could buy that. They would like buy GameCubes.
This would be like looking in a cave with a blacklight flashlight and saying, "This is a great idea. Let's run full steam ahead and see if there's a bear." That's what they're doing.
The one thing I can see
Wow.
people definitely buying this, like, confirmed purchase things, are stupid parents around Christmas time buying their kids. Oh, he wanted a game console, right? I don't remember the name of it,
Oh, so it's gonna be the new plug-and plays.
but
Wii! There's Nintendo's already that. That's what the Wii is, and the
Yeah.
Wii U. And they're family-friendly games and fun games on it.
yeah,
But
It-
even the Switch, the price for the Switch is actually pretty good for,
yeah,
I mean, for what the console can do, and for how much it's giving right now, the price of like $250, $300 is a really great deal for a console that's just so versatile.
and that's one thing. That's one thing that comes to mind when I think of this console idea that they're making. I think that it will definitely fail eventually, but since it's Google, they're going to put about 50% of their chips in the bucket and say, let's see how good it does, because they can afford
They
it.
won't
It's a
do
bit
50%.
generous, something like
They won't
25.
do 50%. I give them 15.
15.
They're not
Yeah.
gonna put more than 15% of what they
They're
have
not
into this.
gonna- they're
'Cause
not
they
gonna throw their
know-
company into a
They
bid.
know this is a shot in the dark. They know this could end up being a mistake, and they're not going to jeopardize that much of their own income and money over this. Because as much as Google has grown, they probably know full well all of the Google's trying to take over the world and how kind of eerie of Google getting into things people can be.
Yeah.
Not to mention, they're already not getting a good eye from
Yeah.
YouTubers, considering all the constant changes on YouTube and the
Yeah. The one
There's a
problem
reason people use Twitch.
I was thinking the reason why I was thinking about talking about YouTube with Google and stuff with this console is because imagine what will happen if Google gets games coming out in the console like Call of Duty, Last of Us 2, God of War, and they give exclusive content to these consoles only through YouTube. Like,
they're gonna have to push a lot of money out if they want that.
and they can't afford it, but let's say that they do
Yeah,
that.
but that's still a huge risk for the company as a total.
Let's say that they do that. Let's say that they make let's say that they try to make YouTube an exclusive platform for the console. I know.
They will get so many people yelling
Yeah.
at them.
Here's
And
the
that-
advantage to YouTube being with the console, is the console would have a direct connection to YouTube because YouTube is
Yeah.
owned by Google. So it would be a lot easier for people to stream to YouTube than anywhere else, so they could encourage having it be done on YouTube
Yeah.
by making it extremely easy,
Yeah.
but that's about it. If you
And-
try to limit this and say you can't be on Twitch, this, that, or anything, you're immediately losing fan base, and a big portion of when games get bought is when people who watch their favorite streamer or video maker play it and they want to play it. They would lose a lot of people if they tried to do that.
And not only that, but hold on, let me see if I can get my thought there, because I had a brain fart.
There was a game that tried to do that once and say, you can't stream this, you have to play it. You cannot stream it, and it failed because of that. it never got going like they wanted it to because no one would play it. And then when they opened it up, people
nowadays,
started finding out
the
about
ideas of
it.
streaming and all that are ideas of like their notoriety, and they're also they're the new form of advertisement in a way.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, then let's ask this question then. Exclusivity to a console. Is this a good thing? Is it bad to own an Xbox and a PlayStation and a PC all in one go? Am I a scrub, or am I a normal consumer to say that I will enjoy a console over everything else because it's preference? And let's say...
I think that if you're gonna own two of anything, like if you're going to have more than one gaming platform, one of them has to be a PC. And I'm talking across major consoles and gaming mechanics, because you can own the different consoles, but how...
Hello?
Hello, Ryan?
Rip him, bro. Am I right? Am I right?
Sorry, I'm dealing with something.
And you know you have to have something else with it too, because you have friends, you make
Sorry
connections. You can make
Anyway,
you make connections.
My reason is because you can play on a console, and all these different consoles, yeah, they're all these awesome, they're little exclusives, but generally speaking, console gaming is the same type of gaming. They're these MMOs, like Warframe or Destiny, first-person, third-person MMOs, not necessarily more stepped-back games. You have a direct character that you're involved with, and they usually follow one of a few certain concepts, either action, or fantasy, or sci-fi, most of them inevitably involving some type of action, or it's Minecraft. But on PC, you have a variety. You have the indie gaming market, you have Steam at your hands, you have strategy games that are would never work on a console. You could never get StarCraft running properly on a console. Not because the consoles can't handle it, but because the gameplay would be weird, because of how the hotkeys work, and trying to set things up and trying to use an analog stick for that wouldn't work.
Yeah.
It's because of that that you should have a PC to experience the more delicate kind of free-form side of gaming, because most of gaming started on the computer.
Yeah.
And it's always been best on the computer. So if you're going to get into gaming as an actual gamer, and not just someone who picked up a console and plays for fun, your second device, at the very least, needs to be a computer that can do something, some form of gaming.
Yeah.
At the very least.
We all agree that this is a risky idea, not a failure, because we don't know whether that will be a failure yet. We all agree that it's a risky... Yeah.
It's gonna flop, in my opinion.
It's gonna fail.
Okay. Because...
It's a very tight market with a very huge step that really is more of a risk than they need to take.
Here's why it'll fail. It's because they're avoiding Steam. It's part of why it's gonna fail. Even if they make a console, gamers will be too stubborn and nostalgic to let Google take over the industry, and they'll all just make their own little indie games, and we'll live off indie games. Look at what's happening. Some of the biggest exploding things on YouTube are YouTubers playing indie games. Playing the small games that are made by one or two people sitting around at home just making it for fun because they wanted to make a game. You can't take over a gaming market because it's too community based.
Yeah, and I think that's a reason why this idea is weird, because I think they're trying to be Microsoft compared to Sony, where Sony is established with gaming and stuff like that. You rarely ever think of Sony as anything else, even though they're big in other markets and stuff. Like, you don't buy Sony products for like a TV or a headphones, so you buy it for the PlayStation. And yes, I think when Google is looking at Microsoft, they're trying to be like that, saying, I want to dip my toe into everything and see what happens.
Well, I remember they also made a smartphone at one point. I don't know what the
the Google
Pixel,
which is pretty good considering. Yeah, they're on the Google Pixel 3 right now.
That's because everyone's fed up with Apple, and everyone doesn't like Samsung for some reason, even though Samsung's amazing. I love my Samsung.
Okay, anyway.
Oh, because Samsung's Google, right, by the way.
Yeah,
But they made their own phone, because Google's just the software. They want the hardware, too.
Yeah. So, anyway, back on topic. And final thoughts on this. Well, this is probably going to be a bad idea. What can we do as consumers to inform people as this, saying that yes, this is a bad game. This is a bad thing. Don't buy it. Right? Just say that blatantly.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it doesn't matter how big a company you are. If the entire community fan base for the market you're trying to get into is yelling at you to go away before you even try, you're not going to go anywhere. That's part of the problem with trying to become a YouTuber or a podcast streamer, is when you try to get into the Let's Play community, no one's going to watch you because they have their people they like already. They have no reason to watch you. That's what the gamers are. Why would I go buy an Xbox or go buy this game from Think or Google? Who on earth is going to make it just for this Google thing? PlayStation, Xbox have too many players now. They'd lose so much money. They're gonna release it for both, so I'll just get it on my PlayStation. Or I'll get it on the computer, because everything will always be for the computer eventually.
If the console actually manages to... It's gonna actually come down to exclusives and how the console runs and how all that goes, because if the hardware runs alright, it has to have good software, it has to have good games, and it has to have something that makes players want to grab this other than a PlayStation or an Xbox.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The driving... You go ahead, Fang.
Let's say, which is just too much of a risk when people have already well established that they're comfortable on certain consoles, and a fourth party, excuse me, because we already have Nintendo.
I'm getting a lot of hits about
a fourth party coming in basically saying we want to try and cut in on that. It's like, no.
Yeah.
What it's gonna come down to is, for the average person, how much does it cost? What are the exclusives? And what is the opinion of the YouTubers who are gonna pick it up to show people what it's like, so they don't have to go ahead and just buy it?
Paid advertising from Google.
Thing with it.
Paid advertising from Google.
Google can advertise it all they want, but if the YouTubers go and do it, what is Google gonna do? They take their entire YouTube channel down because they gave the thing a negative? That's bad on Google, because then they're losing views on YouTube.
Yeah.
People are gonna review it honestly on YouTube, and if they don't do it on YouTube, then it's gonna happen on Twitch. It's gonna happen everywhere else.
Okay. And now we're gonna move on to the final topic. Basically, you know, don't buy it. We'll see how it turns out. We're not gonna say don't buy it because I'm recording it on YouTube, and YouTube is owned by Google. So, hello, overlords. I respect you somewhat.
I'm gonna say don't buy it. Google, stop trying to take over my life.
But that. I would say this in the end.
Word over Google Docs.
Just see how it works out. And, hey Savage, what do you think? You're 16. You're young. What do you think?
Oh, you got that wrong again. It is.
I bet.
To my G. 14.
You're the market Google's targeting. It's gonna be your age group.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
You're who they're gonna target. They're not gonna target us.
Well,
Yeah,
of course, they got this generation is all about the memes, not about consoles, so good luck with that.
Are you saying they should make a meme machine?
Hey, probably.
Literally?
I
Yeah.
would not be against this.
Yeah.
Quite literally, they need to make a meme machine, guys.
Is that Logan Paul?
Commander Zavala, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Too soon? Too soon? Too soon?
Too late.
Too excited.
Too late.
Anyway, final topic. Basically, and I'm going to make sure this is quick because I have about maybe 10 minutes left.
I'd say I'm sorry, but I'm not.
Destiny 2 expansion is coming out, and they're comparing it to the Taken King. Are we excited or are we not?
No, not if they're gonna compare it to the... I pre-ordered the Taken King and then boycotted it for half a year. It was... It doesn't have anything to it. If it's gonna be another Taken King, all that means is all of my hard work from before is gonna mean nothing again.
Yeah.
That,
I
and it's
played
gonna
the
burn out
Osiris.
after a couple days.
Yeah. I played the Osiris DLC. And I played it like the Taken King DLC when I finally went back to Taken King. Played the story, and that was it. I didn't touch the raid, I didn't touch all the extra stuff. And as someone who, prior to the Taken King, quite religiously played the other content in the game and capped out anything you could do in it, it didn't have that.
Just us down here.
Even for Destiny, Taken King was bad. Adding the Juggernaut was cool. They added a raid. I get it, the raid was different. But if they're
It was
just
not
gonna,
an expansion.
but if they're just gonna follow their cookie cutter template from Destiny 1 and Destiny 2, it's not gonna do well. What they've tried to do in Destiny 2 and what they're trying to do now is not learn from Destiny 1. That's what they're saying. They're trying to remake Destiny 1 into a game that more people will like. Because they don't want to have to start from scratch. So they're trying to tweak it into being the same game that people like.
Yeah.
And in the end, it's worse.
Because we talked about that before, like, Destiny 2 is for the average player, the casual player. It's not for people like us.
Talk to me in a few
Even
weeks after I
then-
played the expansion. I have the
Okay.
I have the starting pass, so I have it still technically for free.
Even then, I wouldn't exactly say it's for the casual player, because here's the thing. Even so, the casual player is eventually going to be like, okay, this is getting old, and this feels repetitive.
Yeah.
And when you play the first Destiny, will be like, hey, this just feels like the same thing with different colors and different tweaks.
I have yet to
what about-
see a game that can engross the casual player for more than about 20 hours.
Yeah.
Crossover to Destiny to Halo. Am I right, guys? Halo to Destiny to Halo.
Halo is the only reason to buy an Xbox, in my opinion.
Yeah.
When Halo 5 first came out, I was about to go buy an Xbox One just to play Halo 5.
I'm glad you
Because I
did
like
it.
That shit
Halo
was
that
ass.
much.
But Halo 5 was ass, bro.
Yes,
It could have been worse. It was. I don't think it was that bad, personally.
The sniper, because he doesn't even one shot. That's sad. Doesn't even
Oh,
one shot.
are you talking about multiplayer? See, I'm talking
Yeah,
about the
I'm talking about
story. Because Halo's
Oh,
a
no.
story-based game. I hate to tell you, buddy, but that's kind of the main drive for Halo.
Still don't
But like
Call
Halo
of
4
Duty
was
is the
like the OG.
multiplayer.
captured so
Nah,
much of
Halo
void
4 was a
light.
good game. For multiplayer,
Halo
it was
4
a
was
very good
good.
game. Halo
But
4
that's
was
just it.
OG.
The Halo franchise is a story franchise. They
I
have
know.
multiplayer that's fun, so you can keep running around as your favorite Spartan, that was the goal.
Yeah.
But it's a story franchise. You can't
Yeah,
judge
right.
a game that's a story franchise on the multiplayer.
And I think
I think they end off with a cliffhanger. The story, like the Halo 5.
I'm excited for Halo 6. But I'm hoping they get out of this Xbox exclusive deal with it, though.
Still there?
Yeah.
I really do. I doubt they're going to, but I wish they
Don't
do.
break my heart here.
I
Okay.
just want to play Halo. again.
Final thoughts on Destiny 2 being saved at all. Do we think it? Do you think? No. It's dead.
Not in the
Totally
hands
dead.
of Bungie.
Yeah,
to-
I'm gonna agree with that. But Bungie's just giving that game a fast track to the grave.
The Steam community could do better than Bungie right now
Alright.
with it.
Okay. And Savage. I leave this up to you. $60 for Taking King expansion for Destiny 2. Do you get it?
What? It's 60?
No, $20. Like you buy the
20.
game. You buy the game. You buy the game and everything again. Like you're buying the
I
game
was
for the
about
first.
to say.
It's 20. It's
Yeah.
20. But I know it's 20 because when I first pre-ordered the game, it was 100 to get the first DLC automatically, and you got other stuff too with,
Alright.
with all that
My-
jazz.
So
My
Savage,
friend bought that.
so Savage, would you get it? Was $20? Would you buy it
Waste
again?
my money.
I didn't buy it. A friend bought it for me. But if I wanted to buy it,
That was my Hunger of Crota. Matt bought it for me.
would I spend $20 on the DLC? Nah.
Crota's not Hunger of Crota. So
Nah, I wouldn't. Like,
Okay.
spend like another $20 on the fucking game.
don't ask me. I spent the money already.
Okay. And last topic of the podcast is the line. It's the line discussion, like what I like to call walking the line. Apparently, we're talking about upcoming games and current games and where they place on a line. For example, The Division, Last of Us 2, and God of War.
Last of Us is gonna be below. God of War has a chance, but I feel like Last of Us isn't gonna make it.
Yeah.
It's
Real talk.
Last of Us 1 was a
I don't
great
know
game.
how much more my
And then they
business
remastered it and it was
I'm
awesome.
running out of
People got to
ammo.
play it on the PS4 because it kind of came out at the end of the PS3's lifespan. So remastering that was a good game to do.
Not in my playbook.
But
I'm gonna do what I
they're
can
trying
help
to
you.
ride it with the hype of Last of Us 1, and that's gonna make the game bomb. Because lately, if you paid attention, every game that's released they keep releasing sequels.
I can't believe
Now,
there's so
Anthem is gonna be
real about
a new
destroying
game.
these.
Mhm.
That one's catched people's eyes because it's new. But these sequels, people go and play it, they expect it to be something like the previous game, and some deliver. Wolfenstein delivered, Persona delivered, but most of them,
Persona blew
Aren't-
itself out of the water.
but most of them aren't making it because it's so
Okay.
hard because they're trying to create sequels from a golden era in game development, and it's
Okay.
not gonna work.
So then, what about the game? What about the games of like Division, revamping your whole entire system and starting from fresh, somewhat, but still keeping the fans that you have from before? They basically made a whole new game out of nothing.
That is, you have to be, you need to do a good job when you revamp something. If you look at Mass Effect Andromeda, that was a revamp. That wasn't a sequel, that was a revamp of the franchise.
Yeah.
That was a restart. And even though it was a great game, because the fan base was a different fan base from what they turned it into, even though they made an amazing game, it wasn't what the fan base enjoyed mostly. Some of us did, but most people didn't, and now the franchise as a whole is shelved. They won't make another game, even though it's established to be a trilogy again. But they
Yeah.
won't do that now.
Yeah.
It,
And so does this mean that the Division is a good game and above the line because new DLC, new expansion, year
I'd like
3
to say it's
content.
above the line.
Yeah,
I can't say, I haven't played it. I've seen a little bit of it. It looks alright.
I
understand what they did with it, but it's
Yeah.
just not my cup of tea, personally.
Okay. And last topic, God of War. Revamping your entire system, how the game is totally played, from top-down hack and slash thing to basically over-the-shoulder combat, like Devil May Cry combat to basically kind of like Dark Souls combat in a sense, where it's just over-the-shoulder and hack and slash up in your face, fighting bosses with some
Doesn't
action.
matter, it's Kratos, it'll do well.
So
It's a game that's been people have been waiting for a while.
It's like the Borderlands franchise. It doesn't matter what they do anymore. It's just fun to play. So long as they don't like change the general feel of the game, so long as they don't change the overall like aspects of what the game is defined as, like Borderlands is humor and stuff.
But
It's
if they
gonna
try
be
to make it a
fine.
hardcore, if they try to make it like a hardcore story-driven, like
Yes.
super
playing with
serious
powers that
game,
they
it's
don't
gonna flop
understand.
because everyone's gonna expect all the goofy, fun nature that the original Borderlands gave us.
Yeah. And it's the same thing in God of War. If they try to change it from this over-the-top combat to some kind of scaled-down, kind of grounded combat,
yeah,
it's gonna lose that vibe, and people aren't gonna be into it. But as long as they stick to that same kind of,
Crystals in this chamber.
even if it's slow combat, if it's on a large scale, it'll be fine.
yes, but it's a revamp.
Take it back.
It's a revamp of the
Together,
series.
we're gonna
Lots
end
of things
this.
get revamped. YouTube's been revamped 4 times, probably. at this
But
point.
Mass Effect Andromeda,
Same
I mean, you think of that, you said that's a revamp of the series, and it had a totally
Because the game
It
was,
wasn't well received.
it wasn't done at the right time. Look at
No.
right now, if Mass Effect Andromeda would have been released today instead of when it was, it would have done better.
and if it had more development time and less bugs and everything, and people
Not
would be
even the
less
development
nitpicky.
time.
People would
The,
be
the
less.
bugs are they're being nitpicky because they're sour about how it's not all 3 of the previous games in one. People expected an improvement on Mass Effect 3, but what they delivered was proof that a new trilogy can be started with this great setup, and no one saw through that. No one saw it as a setup game. They all saw it as a trying to be an independent game. No one thought about what it was trying to do.
Okay, so okay, final part in this topic, and then we'll close. Division, above or below? I say above because changing your entire system to be year 3 content and actually giving what you promised above the line always. Delivering to your fans and making them happy, always above the line. What do you?
I
you
can
guys
agree
think?
with that because it shows that they actually listen to the fans. Because I think that's one of the biggest things that game companies fail to do sometimes nowadays. That's listen to the feedback that people give them and be
Cough,
like,
cough, Bungie.
oh. But not only that, but other games, and just like they need to listen to what people have to say and be like, give different ideas a try and keep it open to change and do further development. Because even if it's a finished game, a game's never truly finished until it's pretty much dead in the water.
Yeah. Okay, then Last of Us 2. Above or below?
I'm skeptical, but I don't think it's gonna do well.
I don't either. I feel like it has, the universe it's in has the chance to be above, but we already had a Last of Us game with a storyline, and The Last of Us has established itself now as a story franchise, and it's kind of hard to see where they'd go from what they did before.
But wait, are they continuing it as from the same perspective?
They're doing this crazy thing with like fanatical guys who, like, this is what I've heard. Do not quote me on this, but it has to do with these guys who think that we should all embrace the infection and stuff.
They're basically the unitologists from Dead Space. They're basically that.
Yeah.
They're
So
basically.
are we following the same people with Joel and
No.
I
No.
think
These
it's
are
new people.
They're basically quote unquote Christians that love God, but they see zombies as God.
Nobody's talking about who we're playing as.
Ellie.
Who's the protagonist?
Ellie.
It's Ellie?
Ellie is the main character this time around.
Okay, so this is probably taking place in either a later time or
Yeah. Because Ellie is like our age now. She's like 18, 19, 20, something.
My only problem with this is they're kind of making a cliche story now.
Yeah.
The last story was groundbreaking. This concept is kind of cliche.
Yeah. And God of War. I say above the line.
I'm very hopeful.
I'm hopeful
I have
too.
good aspirations for God of War.
So above the line then.
Yeah.
I would say that.
Okay. I say
Guys, we
that.
need to find people who disagree with us so it's better conversation. We just spend all of our time agreeing on everything.
So what?
We need the other side!
We're customers. We're consumers. It's our job to agree with each other
It's
and
our
make a
job to
baseline.
complain when there's a problem. What are you talking about?
I'd rather buy another GameCube, you know what I'm saying? The GameCube was the best console ever.
Nintendo, make us a new game. Google, if you want to do well, make a new era GameCube. Go revamp all the GameCube games and put them on a new era GameCube. Then you'll have our attention.
Well, anyway,
You know that Mario Kart Baby version?
Oh.
Don't touch Mario Kart though. Or Smash Bros.
Alright.
I personally say Microsoft needs to let go of Rareware and let them do their own thing again.
Yeah. Make a good James Bond game. Make a good James Bond game again. I mean, God.
Still not here yet.
Yeah, I want GoldenEye again, man. I want my true multiplayer experience.
I want a game where a rock is useful.
All right. Anyway, my name is Alex Tyler. I hope you enjoyed this session with me and my friends. We talked about a lot. We talked about some things that are important to talk about, and I'm glad we talked about them anyway. So, my name is Alex Tyler. I'm here with Soulless Raven, Fang Alchemist, and a 12-year-old we found.
He's just getting younger as time goes on. It's like from that movie. He was born a 90-year-old man, and his time is gone. He has de-aged.
Alright, see you guys later. Bye.
Alright, Benjamin Button.
Adios, peoples.